What if I told you a quarterback that no team wanted is who defenders now fear the most?
Lamar Jackson, open field. Oh, he broke his ankles.
Lamar Jackson wasn't just overlooked. He was told to give up on being a quarterback altogether. Yet today, he's an NFL MVP. Not once, but twice. From being passed on by every team in the draft and having to watch 4 quarterbacks get selected ahead of him, Lamar's road to breaking records in the NFL has been anything but easy. To figure out how he's defied all the odds, we have to go back to his childhood, where he had to overcome adversity at an extremely young age. When Lamar Jackson was just 8 years old, his father and grandmother both passed away on the same exact day. In the midst of this tragedy, Lamar's mom looked him in the eyes and said, "Don't cry, we are going to do better and amount to something." As a kid, Jackson wasn't really interested in football, but his mom signed him up to play just so he had something to do. However, once Lamar stepped onto the gridiron, it was clear he had a natural talent for the game. So his mom, Felicia, decided to do everything in her power to help him get better. Every day, rain or shine, the two would run back and forth over a local bridge. To this day, Lamar says he hasn't played in a football game that was more tiring than those long runs on the bridge. But Felicia's hands-on approach didn't end there. When the two returned home from their run, they would go to the backyard and suit up in pads. Yes, Lamar's mom put on full pads so she could run through football drills with her son and tackle him. Next, the coach of Lamar's team sent him to work out with Van Peanut Warren, a local QB coach who helped young players with their throwing mechanics. Every Sunday from 2 to 6 p.m., an 8-year-old Lamar would train with Warren. Just a few feet away on a bench sat Felicia, taking mental notes on every drill the QB trainer ran with her son so she too could do those drills with him when they were back at home. Jackson's mom had a mantra: "I won't tell you to do something I can't do." So when she arrived home with a 300-pound tire for Lamar to flip across the backyard, she was right beside him doing it too. For Jackson's first 2 years of high school, he attended Santa Luz, but barely saw the field. So before his junior year, he transferred to Boynton Beach Community High School, where he immediately won the job as the team's starting QB. Felicia's hands-on approach continued in high school too. She helped Lamar learn his playbook and of course put together more grueling training sessions. Lamar's high school teammates started to join him at his mom's intense beach workouts, but they struggled to keep up. Some players even vomited due to the difficulty of the exercises. In his 2 years as a high school starting QB, Jackson threw for 2,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. On the ground, he rushed for 1,600 yards and 22 touchdowns. But despite these numbers, Lamar was just a 3-star recruit. He had some offers from big-time programs like Auburn and Florida, but the problem was those teams were more interested in Lamar as an athlete, not a quarterback. So when Louisville's head coach Bobby Petrino promised Lamar's mom that he wouldn't change her son's position, Jackson committed to the school. When Lamar arrived on campus, he didn't win the starting QB job. That went to Reggie Bonifant, who had started games the previous season. Despite not being named the starter, Lamar was sent on the field to execute a trick play in the first game of the season. But on his first collegiate pass, Jackson threw an interception. Lamar didn't get back on the field after that till midway through the second quarter, when the Cardinals were down 14. But once Lamar entered the game, he led the team on 3 touchdown drives and fell just 1 score shy of a comeback victory. Despite his great performance in the first game of the season, Lamar was still not named the team's full-time starting QB. He, Reggie Bonifant, and Kyle Bolin all got to start games that 2015 season. Part of the reason Lamar committed to Louisville was because they ran a pro-style offense. He didn't want to go to a school that ran a simple scheme where he could solely rely on his legs to win games. Jackson knew Louisville's offense was going to be complicated, but he admitted he didn't think it was going to be as tough as it was for him to learn. He soon realized to master the offense, he had to become a student of the game. So every day at 6 a.m., Lamar would make his way over to the team facility to watch film alongside his coaches. All the studying paid off for Lamar later in the year. In the last regular season game, starter Kyle Bolin threw a pick 6 to put the Cards down 14 in the first quarter. Lamar then replaced him under center and put the team on his back, accounting for 316 yards and 3 touchdowns to lead Louisville to a 38-24 comeback win. After that game, the starting quarterback job was clearly Lamar's to keep. 2016 was set to be Lamar's first season as Louisville's full-time starting QB, but no one could have imagined what would happen next. In the first game of the year, Lamar set a school record, scoring 8 total touchdowns, a feat he accomplished in just the first half of the game. The following week for Syracuse, Jackson passed for over 400 yards, while also rushing for 199 and scoring 5 total touchdowns. Heading into week 3, Louisville was ranked as the number 10 team in the country, and was set to go head-to-head with number 2 ranked Florida State. And guess what? Lamar Jackson's hot play continued. Versus one of the best teams in the country, he completed 65% of his passes for 216 yards, ran for 146, and scored 5 total touchdowns in the team's 63-20 blowout victory. Lamar Jackson had officially arrived. The player who wasn't anywhere close to a top 10 Heisman favorite heading into the season looked like a real threat to win the award just 3 games into the year. Lamar finished his sophomore season with 3,500 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions. On the ground, he ran for 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns. After that historic season, Jackson became the youngest player ever to win the Heisman at just 19 years old. The following season, 2017, Lamar put up similar numbers. He passed for 3,600 yards, 27 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, while rushing for 1,600 yards and 18 scores. But the thing is, he didn't win the Heisman again. He actually came in 3rd place for the award behind Baker Mayfield and Bryce Love. After his junior year, Lamar declared for the NFL draft. However, as soon as he shared his intentions to go pro, controversy surrounded him. Some experts questioned whether Lamar could throw the ball effectively at the NFL level, with some teams even asking him to work out for them as a wide receiver, not a quarterback. During his combine press conference, Jackson reiterated that he is a quarterback and that is the only position he will be playing in the NFL. During the pre-draft process, Lamar was usually ranked as the 5th best QB in a class that was thought to be loaded with talented prospects at the position. The 4 quarterbacks ranked ahead of him were Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Baker Mayfield, usually in that order. But despite being ranked behind those guys, Lamar was still projected to be a mid to late 1st round pick. Also guys, I want to thank Underdog for sponsoring today's video. If you guys sign up using my promo code SheGotSports, you'll get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. I love playing their pick'em game. It's super easy. All you gotta do is pick higher or lower on player stats like passing yards, receiving yards, total touchdowns, and even fantasy points, which is super interesting. These are the picks I'm rolling with on my pick'em entry this weekend. Let me know what you guys think of it. Is this gonna work or not? So go sign up with my promo code SheGotSports and claim your free pick. It makes building your first pick'em entry a lot easier. When draft day arrived, as expected, the 4 quarterbacks who were ranked above Lamar Jackson during the pre-draft process were all selected in the top 10. So with Lamar being the top quarterback on the board after the 10th pick, he would surely hear his name called soon, right? No. Lamar's draft day slide continued till the Ravens selected him with the last pick in the 1st round, 22 picks later than the QB who was drafted before him, Josh Rosen. To start his rookie season, incumbent starter Joe Flacco remained the Ravens' QB1. But when Flacco was ruled out with a hip injury in Week 11, Lamar Jackson got to make his first NFL start. In that matchup with the Bengals, Jackson completed 68% of his passes for 150 yards and 119 rushing yards, which set a franchise record for the most rushing and passing yards by a player in a single game. Lamar also got the win in his first start, as the Ravens topped the Bengals 24-21. Jackson went on to win all but one of the regular season games he started his rookie year. The Ravens also finished the season 10-6, which was good enough to win them the AFC North division title. For the first round of the playoffs, the 4-seed Ravens were set to host the 5-seed Chargers. But Lamar looked like a shell of himself in his first playoff game. Jackson completed just 48% of his passes for 194 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and unfortunately fumbled on what could have been a game-tying drive with just seconds left in the matchup. Lamar finished his rookie season by completing 58% of his passes for 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 695 rushing yards, and 5 rushing touchdowns. Despite the playoff loss, it seemed like the Ravens had found their QB1 for the foreseeable future in Lamar Jackson. But no one could have imagined what he would achieve in his first full year as an NFL starting quarterback. In a Week 1 matchup with the Dolphins, Lamar completed 85% of his passes for 5 touchdowns, no turnovers, and a perfect passer rating, while the team beat Miami 59-10. Lamar continued to play at this level throughout the season, which propelled Baltimore to a 14-2 record and the 1 seed in the AFC. After their first round bye in the playoffs, the Ravens were slated to host the 6 seed Titans in the divisional round. But in that one, the Baltimore team that had the best regular season record in the league was nowhere to be found. Lamar Jackson completed just 52% of his passes for 365 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and 143 rushing yards. Lamar ended his 2019 season by completing 66% of his passes for 3,100 yards, 36 passing touchdowns, which was the most in the league, by the way, over 1,200 rushing yards, which broke the single season record for the most by a QB, and 7 rushing touchdowns. With those numbers, Jackson was unanimously named the NFL MVP, which made him the second youngest player in history to win the award. In 2020, Lamar's stats took a bit of a dip from the season prior. The Ravens were a 5 seed heading into the playoffs, and guess who they were set to face off with in the wildcard round? The Titans, the team that had ended their season just a year ago. After losing his first 2 playoff appearances, a narrative was forming that Jackson couldn't win in the postseason. But in his first road playoff game, Lamar completed 70% of his passes for 179 yards, 136 rushing yards, and 1 rushing score, which led his team to victory. The following week in the divisional round, Lamar suffered a concussion and was ruled out in the 3rd quarter. The Ravens went on to lose that one, which ended their season. After getting his first playoff win, hopes were high for Lamar and Baltimore heading into 2021. And in just the first 12 games, he already had more passing yards than he did during the entire 2020 season. But then, in week 14, Lamar suffered an ankle injury that sidelined him for the rest of the season. Entering the 2022 season, Jackson and the Ravens were trying to agree on a new contract. Lamar ultimately turned down the Ravens offer and decided to bet on himself. But in week 13, Lamar suffered yet another injury. This time, it was a sprained PCL. The initial diagnosis said that Lamar would be out 1 to 3 weeks. However, he ended up missing the remaining 5 games of the regular season. But the Ravens still clinched a playoff spot. So now the big question was, would Lamar be able to play in the wildcard game? And the answer to that question turned out to be no, which actually caused quite some controversy. Some said Lamar wasn't playing to protect himself, as he was still looking to secure a long-term contract. Jackson responded to the critics by stating his team would be at a disadvantage if he was out there with an injured PCL, and that it wouldn't be fair to put his teammates in that situation. As the 2022 season came to a close, Lamar was ready to sign a big contract to stay in Baltimore. But the problem was, the organization wasn't ready to offer him the money he wanted. So on March 2nd, 2023, Lamar requested a trade. But after back-to-back years with season-ending injuries, teams were hesitant to trade for him. The Falcons owner Arthur Blank said, quote, "Looking at it objectively, I'd say there's some concern over how long he can play his style of game. Hopefully a long time, but he's missed 5-6 games each of the last 2 years. Each game counts a lot in our business." According to Adam Schefter, not a single team approached the Ravens about making a deal for the quarterback. Eventually, on April 27th, 2023, Lamar and the Ravens finally came to an agreement on a new contract that made him the highest paid player in the league at the time. That 2023 season, Lamar proved to everyone that the Ravens made the right decision signing him to a huge extension. He yet again led Baltimore to the best record in the NFL, while completing a career-high 67% of his passes for 3,600 yards, 24 touchdowns, and just 7 interceptions, while also rushing for over 800 yards and 5 touchdowns. For this performance, he was awarded the 2nd MVP of his career. In the team's first playoff game that year, Lamar dominated the Texans, completing over 70% of his passes, rushing for 100 yards, and scoring 4 total touchdowns. But then, the very next week in the AFC Championship, it all fell apart. With just over 6 minutes left in the game, the Ravens were down 10. Lamar then threw this head-scratching interception that basically sealed the win for the Chiefs. After a brutal ending to the 2023 season, the 2024 one got off to an even rougher start. The Ravens lost their first game of the season by literal inches, then were beat by one of the worst teams in the league, the Raiders, the following week. So heading into week 3, Baltimore was 0-2, which was bad news for their playoff hopes. You see, from 1990 to 2023, only 11.5% of teams that have started 0-2 have made the playoffs. But after getting the win in week 3, the Ravens went on a 5-game win streak, thanks to the outstanding play of their QB. During that stretch, Lamar completed over 70% of his passes for 1,290 yards, 15 total touchdowns, and just 1 interception. However, after that win streak, Baltimore suffered some bad losses to teams like the Browns and Steelers. And after a Week 13 loss versus the Eagles, Felicia had to be tough on her son, just like when he was a kid. Lamar said after the loss, his mom cussed him out for not taking open running lanes and holding onto the ball for too long. You just gotta love Felicia. And a little side note here, Felicia does so much good and really doesn't take any credit for it. She coaches football back in their hometown, puts together some clinics and stuff, and whenever the media approaches her or wants to talk to her, she always declines because she doesn't want to take anything away from Lamar. She wants all the spotlight to be on him. She wants him to, get all the praise. So yeah, I just want to give her flowers right now because she's an amazing woman. Felicia's cussing worked though, because the very next game, Lamar completed an insane 84% of his passes for 290 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and 65 rushing yards. Lamar finished the 2024 regular season with some of the best numbers of his career. He passed for a career best 4,172 yards, a career best 41 touchdowns, just 4 interceptions, 915 rushing yards, and 4 rushing scores. Every team passed on Lamar Jackson twice. Remember, they didn't just pass on him in the draft. Even after he won an MVP, no teams called the Ravens to try and make a deal for him after he requested a trade. Now, he's making all of them look silly. Lamar's teammate Derrick Henry is having a record-breaking season himself. If you want to know his origin story, check out this video up here.